Close your eyes for a little while and allow the noise of the present day to drift farther away. The air becomes warmer with each slow breath. A quiet breeze moves across wide fields beside the Nile River. Somewhere in the darkness, water brushes gently against reeds that bend without hurry. The stars shine above the desert with a calm that has remained almost unchanged for thousands of years. Night still covers the land of Egypt, but morning is slowly making its patient journey from beyond the eastern horizon. The world is not yet awake. Lamps still glow inside a few mud brick homes. Most families remain wrapped in simple linen blankets, resting after another long day beneath the endless sun. There is comfort in these quiet hours. Before voices fill the streets, before donkeys begin carrying heavy loads, before children run between houses, before the smell of baking bread spreads through the villages, there is only stillness. Even the birds seem content to wait a little longer before greeting the day. Our journey begins not inside a royal palace or among great temples built for famous kings. Instead, we quietly enter a small government storehouse standing beside a dusty road that leads toward fertile fields fed by the Nile. The building is plain. Its walls are made of thick mud bricks baked beneath many summers. The roof is supported by wooden beams darkened with age. Large clay jars stand in careful rows. Woven baskets rest against the walls. Wooden doors are closed through the night to protect what waits inside. Grain. Thousands upon thousands of baskets filled with barley and emmer wheat. It is not treasure made from gold. It is something even more important. Grain keeps people alive. Every loaf of bread begins here. Every bowl of porridge begins here. Every family depends on these harvests. Because grain is so valuable, someone must count every basket. Someone must record every measure. Someone must make sure the taxes collected from villages are correct. It is a job that almost no one remembers today. Yet for countless generations, this careful work quietly helped hold together one of history's greatest civilizations. As the night slowly fades, one man begins waking before nearly everyone else. His home is small. The floor is packed earth swept clean before sleeping. A woven sleeping mat rests near one wall. Nearby sits a clay water jar that has kept the night's coolness surprisingly well. A few wooden bowls are stacked beside it. Fresh bread baked yesterday waits beneath a linen cloth. He opens his eyes without needing anyone to wake him. Years of routine have taught his body exactly when morning begins. Outside, the stars remain visible. Inside, the room feels peaceful. He listens for a moment. Nothing. Only silence. His wife still sleeps beside their youngest child. Another child lies curled beneath a blanket nearby. Their breathing is slow and gentle. He quietly stands. His feet touch the cool earth floor. He folds his sleeping mat with practiced movements. Every morning begins the same way. Every morning has followed nearly the same rhythm for many years. He drinks a little water. The coolness feels pleasant after the warmth of sleep. Then he eats only a small piece of yesterday's bread. There is no rush. There never needs to be. The day is already long enough. Outside, the village rests beneath fading starlight. Mud brick houses stand close together, their flat roofs catching the faintest silver light from the sky. Palm trees barely move as warm desert air drifts lazily between them. A dog lifts its head before deciding sleep is still more important. Somewhere farther away, a donkey quietly shifts its weight. The man walks slowly along the narrow path. His sandals leave soft marks in the dust. He carries a small wooden writing board wrapped in linen. Inside another pouch hangs a reed pen. Beside it rests a tiny container holding black ink. These simple objects are the tools of his profession. He is not a soldier. He is not a priest. He is not a wealthy noble. He is a tax scribe whose days are spent counting grain. It sounds simple. In truth, it requires endless patience. Each harvest season brings thousands of measurements. Every village owes a certain amount. Every field must be estimated. Every basket must be checked. Every number must agree with another number written earlier. Mistakes create confusion. Confusion creates arguments. Arguments delay food reaching the storehouses. So accuracy becomes its own quiet form of service. The eastern sky begins changing. Dark blue softens into pale gray. Then comes a gentle hint of gold. Morning birds begin singing from reeds beside narrow canals. The Nile itself remains calm. Its surface reflects the changing sky like polished stone. The river has always decided the rhythm of Egyptian life. Its flooding brings rich black soil. Its retreat allows planting. Its water feeds crops through long months of heat. Without the Nile, these villages would simply disappear beneath sand. The scribe reaches the government granary just as another worker arrives carrying a ring of heavy wooden keys. Neither man speaks much. There is little need. They have shared mornings like this for years. The lock is opened. Large wooden doors groan softly as they swing inward. Cool air escapes from inside. The smell is unmistakable. Dry grain. Dust. Clay. Wood. It is a comforting smell for those who work here. It smells like another successful harvest. Inside, yesterday's work remains exactly where it ended. Rows of baskets fill nearly every corner. Each basket has been marked with simple signs indicating its village, its owner, or its destination. Some markings are fresh. Others have faded over many seasons. Nothing inside appears hurried. Everything rests quietly. Soon more workers begin arriving. Strong laborers stretch their backs before lifting heavy loads. Older supervisors inspect storage rooms. Young assistants sweep loose grain from the floor so nothing valuable is wasted. Even tiny handfuls matter. Bread depends upon every grain. The scribe sits upon a simple wooden stool. He unrolls fresh sheets of papyrus. The surface feels smooth beneath his fingers. His reed pen is trimmed carefully using a small knife. The point must remain sharp enough to produce clear writing. He mixes fresh ink. Black for ordinary writing. Red for headings or important corrections. These colors have guided Egyptian records for centuries. Outside, sunlight slowly enters the courtyard. The warmth grows stronger. Already the air promises another hot day. Soon the first wagons begin arriving from nearby farms. Oxen pull wooden carts filled with grain sacks. Farmers walk beside them. Their clothes already carry dust from the road. Faces glisten with early sweat. Harvest season is never easy. Fields must be cleared before weather changes. Bundles must be carried. Grain must be separated. Every family works together. Parents. Children. Grandparents. Neighbors. Even after all that labor, another task still waits. Taxes. The farmers know why they have come. They stand patiently while baskets are unloaded. Nothing happens quickly. Each load must be measured. Large wooden measuring containers provide standard amounts accepted throughout the region. Workers fill them. Level the grain carefully. Pour the measured amount into storage baskets. Again. 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 Hour after hour. The scribe watches everything. His eyes move between baskets and papyrus. His hand writes steadily. One mark. Another mark. Another line. Another number. His writing seems almost peaceful. No wasted movement. No unnecessary speed. He has learned that careful work finishes sooner than hurried work corrected later. Dust rises each time grain pours from one basket into another. Tiny golden particles float through shafts of morning sunlight. Some settle gently upon the papyrus. Others land upon workers' shoulders. Nobody notices anymore. Dust belongs here. Children sometimes imagine scribes spend their days resting in the shade while farmers work beneath the sun. There is some truth in that. The scribe's hands remain softer. His back carries fewer heavy loads. Yet his work asks something different. Hours of careful attention. Long periods without distraction. Endless checking. Every figure must match. Every account must remain clear. The eyes grow tired. The fingers ache from writing. The mind becomes heavy from repeating the same calculations. Still, the records continue. A farmer steps forward carrying a small clay token. It bears the seal of his village official. The scribe examines it, then compares it with earlier records. Questions are asked quietly. How many fields? How large was the flood this year? Did insects damage any crops? Was part of the harvest lost before gathering? These questions matter. Floods never arrive exactly the same each year. Some seasons bring generous water. Others leave fields thirsty. Nature rarely follows perfect schedules. Government officials understand this. Taxes sometimes change according to harvest conditions. But adjustments require evidence. So the records become even longer. The morning grows warmer. Workers remove simple linen shawls from their shoulders. Sweat darkens clothing. Someone carries cool water in large clay jars. Small cups pass from hand to hand. Nobody drinks too quickly. Water must last throughout the day. Nearby, two elderly laborers sit briefly beneath a tree. Their breathing slows after lifting baskets since sunrise. Their hands show years of work. Calluses cover their palms. Their shoulders have carried grain for decades. They know exactly how to lift without wasting strength. Young workers often rush. Older workers conserve every movement. Age teaches quiet efficiency. The scribe notices them only briefly before returning to his writing. His own shoulders have different aches. Hours spent leaning over papyrus create their own kind of fatigue. By midday, sunlight floods every open space. Heat shimmers above dusty roads. The storehouse walls trap warmth despite their thick construction. Inside, air barely moves. Grain remains dry. Workers continue. Outside, village life unfolds at its familiar pace. Women grind grain using heavy stone mills. The slow scraping sound echoes through narrow streets. Flour gathers little by little. Nearby, fresh dough is kneaded with practiced hands before resting beneath cloth. Clay ovens slowly heat. Soon warm bread will fill homes with comforting smells. Children fetch water. Goats wander between houses. Old men repair fishing nets beneath patches of shade. Life continues gently around the endless rhythm of food. Every loaf eventually connects back to these careful measurements inside the granary. Nothing exists separately. Farmers grow. Laborers carry. Scribes count. Millers grind. Bakers bake. Families eat. Then the cycle quietly begins again. By afternoon, the light changes. The harsh brightness softens just enough to ease tired eyes. Still, much work remains. New carts continue arriving. Some have traveled many hours from distant villages. Their wheels creak over uneven roads. Dust covers both animals and people alike. One family arrives together. A father leads the oxen. His teenage son walks beside the cart. His younger daughter carries a small basket balanced carefully upon her head. Their mother follows behind carrying food wrapped inside linen. The harvest belongs to everyone. So does the journey to deliver taxes. The daughter smiles politely while waiting. She watches the scribes with quiet curiosity. Their neat writing seems mysterious. Tiny signs becoming permanent records. Perhaps someday she will tell younger brothers about the strange beauty of careful handwriting. Perhaps she will simply remember the smell of grain and warm sunlight. Small memories often last longest. The scribe continues writing. His pen scratches softly across papyrus. The sound blends with footsteps. Wooden carts. Birdsong. Quiet conversations. Wind moving through palm leaves. Nothing feels hurried. Even the busiest day moves with steady rhythm. This is how great storehouses fill. Not through sudden action, but through thousands of ordinary moments repeated patiently across many weeks. As afternoon slowly leans toward evening, shadows begin stretching across the courtyard. The hottest hours finally pass. Workers breathe a little easier. Someone laughs quietly over a forgotten story from years before. Another hums an old tune while stacking baskets. The sounds never become loud. Everyone remains tired. Pleasantly tired. The kind of tiredness earned after honest work. The scribe carefully reviews every page written since dawn. He checks names, numbers, village marks, measurements, corrections. Nothing escapes his attention. If uncertainty appears, he asks another official to verify the figures. Two careful minds often notice what one tired mind overlooks. This habit protects both the records and the people whose harvests they describe. Outside, sunlight becomes softer still. The Nile reflects warm shades of gold. Fishing boats drift quietly toward home. Birds circle above shallow water searching for evening meals. The breeze grows cooler. It carries the scent of wet riverbanks mixed with fresh earth. Many workers pause for just a moment to enjoy it. Tomorrow will bring another hot day. Tonight's breeze feels like a gentle reward. The great wooden doors of the granary remain open a little longer. One final cart arrives just before sunset. Its wheels have traveled far. The oxen move slowly from exhaustion. The family leading them looks equally weary. Still, they smile with quiet relief. They arrived before darkness. Their grain will be safely counted. Their long journey is finished. For today. The last baskets from the evening cart are carried into the cool shadow of the granary just as the sun settles lower over the western desert. The light no longer feels bright or sharp. Instead, it becomes soft and golden, resting gently upon the mud brick walls as though the entire village is being wrapped in a warm blanket before night. The day's work slows naturally. No one announces that it is time to stop. The rhythm simply changes. The laborers lift fewer baskets. The scribes place their reed pens down more often. Voices become quieter, not because anyone is told to whisper, but because everyone has spent so many hours working beneath the heat that silence feels more comfortable than conversation. The tax scribe studies the final page of papyrus one more time. The ink has begun to dry. Each careful mark represents a real harvest gathered by real hands. A field planted months ago. Water carried through narrow irrigation channels. Children chasing birds away from young grain. Mothers preparing simple meals so workers could remain in the fields until sunset. Grandfathers walking slowly between rows of barley, remembering seasons that came long before. Every small sign on the page carries a hidden story. To someone else, these records may seem dull. Only numbers. Only names. Only measurements. But the scribe understands something important. Every number is bread. Every measure is another family that worked beneath the Egyptian sun. He gently rolls the finished papyrus and ties it with a thin linen cord. It will join many others inside a wooden chest where records from past years rest in careful order. Some are already beginning to fade. Others remain as dark as the day they were written. Together they quietly tell the history of ordinary people. Not kings. Not famous generals. Just villages. Fields. Harvests. And the patient work that allowed life to continue from one year to the next. Another official carefully counts the filled storage baskets once more before the doors are closed. He walks slowly along each row. His fingers brush the woven sides of the baskets. Now and then he pauses to compare a mark on a basket with one written on a small clay tablet hanging from his belt. His pace is slow enough that dust settles gently back onto the floor before he reaches the next row. Nothing inside the granary should ever feel hurried. Grain rewards patience. Outside, families begin their walk home. The road leading away from the storehouse grows busy for a short while. Oxen pull empty carts that creak much more softly now that their heavy loads have been delivered. Children who had spent the day helping their parents no longer try to walk quickly. Their legs feel heavy. The youngest sometimes climb onto the carts and fall asleep before reaching home. Parents smile quietly. Tomorrow there will be more work. Tonight there is only the comfort of rest waiting beyond the village. The scribe leaves the granary after the great wooden doors are locked. The key turns slowly inside the heavy lock. The sound echoes for only a moment before evening silence returns. He begins the familiar walk home. His sandals press gently into the warm dust. The heat stored inside the earth during the day slowly rises around him. Above, the sky changes color almost minute by minute. Golden light becomes orange. Orange slowly becomes rose. Then soft purple begins spreading across the horizon. Palm trees stand perfectly still against the fading light. The Nile reflects every color without complaint. The river has watched evenings like this for thousands of years. It never seems to grow tired of them. As he walks, he passes fields that only weeks ago were full of standing grain. Now they appear quiet. Short golden stalks remain close to the ground where farmers harvested carefully with curved sickles. Small birds search among the leftover stems for scattered seeds. Nothing goes to waste. Even after harvest, the fields continue feeding life. Farther ahead, several women gather bundles of dry reeds near the edge of a canal. They laugh softly together while finishing the last small task before darkness. Nearby, an elderly fisherman repairs part of his net. His fingers move almost without thought. He has tied thousands of knots over the years. Each knot resembles the last. There is comfort in such familiar work. The evening breeze carries many gentle smells. Fresh bread. Warm earth. River water. Wood smoke beginning to rise from cooking fires. Someone nearby has started roasting onions. Another family prepares lentils inside a clay pot. The scent drifts lazily through the village streets. Hunger arrives quietly after a long day's labor. The scribe reaches his small home just as the first stars begin appearing overhead. His youngest son notices him first. The little boy runs across the yard with small barefoot steps, stopping only long enough to avoid upsetting a clay water jar sitting near the doorway. The child wraps both arms around his father's waist. The scribe smiles. His work demands precision all day. At home, careful numbers are replaced by warm embraces. His wife is kneeling beside the outdoor oven. The final round loaf has nearly finished baking. She brushes a little ash away from the opening before removing the bread with practiced hands. Steam escapes into the cool evening air. The smell is rich and comforting. Fresh bread needs no decoration. Its simple warmth is enough. Dinner is modest. Fresh bread, lentils, a few onions, some dried fish caught several days earlier, a handful of dates, cool water from the clay jar. Nothing on the meal would surprise anyone living in the village. Most families eat much the same. Food is not meant to impress. It is meant to restore tired bodies. They sit together upon woven mats. The youngest child slowly tears pieces from the warm loaf. His fingers become lightly dusted with flour. He watches his father with quiet curiosity. What did you count today? The question is simple. The answer is even simpler. Grain. The boy smiles. You count grain every day. His father nods gently. Almost every day. The child thinks for a moment. Does the grain ever stop? The scribe looks toward the darkening fields beyond the village. Not while people keep planting. The boy seems satisfied. Children rarely need long explanations. Sometimes the shortest answer carries the deepest truth. After supper, neighbors slowly gather outside their homes. Nobody has enough energy for loud celebrations. Instead they sit together beneath the cooling sky. Some repair baskets. Others mend sandals. A grandmother quietly spins flax into thread while telling stories so softly that only the children sitting closest can hear every word. The stories are old. Older than anyone remembers. Each generation adds small details before passing them onward. The moon rises above the eastern horizon. Its pale light spreads across the rooftops. The village changes once again. The busy sounds of daylight disappear. The quiet sounds of evening take their place. Crickets begin singing. Water laps gently against the riverbank. A donkey gives one sleepy call before settling for the night. Someone closes a wooden door. Another family blows out an oil lamp before going to sleep. Darkness in ancient Egypt is never completely silent. It is filled with gentle sounds that have remained almost unchanged for centuries. The scribe sits outside a little longer. Tomorrow's work already waits inside the granary. More grain. More measurements. More careful writing. He does not think of it as a burden. Routine has become part of his life. There is peace in knowing what tomorrow will bring. Many people in every age search for excitement. The scribe has never expected excitement. He expects steady work. Good harvests. Healthy children. Enough bread. Cool water. And another sunrise over the Nile. For him, these are great blessings. Eventually the children grow sleepy. The youngest begins rubbing his eyes while leaning against his mother's shoulder. She carries him inside. His older sister follows quietly, holding a small clay lamp that fills the room with warm golden light. The flame dances gently each time the evening breeze slips through the doorway. Before sleeping, the scribe checks his reed pens. He trims one slightly. Another will need replacing soon. He wraps the good pens carefully inside linen. Good tools deserve quiet care, Tomorrow morning there will be no time to sharpen them. Morning belongs to work. Night belongs to preparation. He drinks one last cup of cool water. The clay jar has kept it pleasantly refreshing despite the day's heat. Water from the Nile travels through many hands before reaching each home. Carriers fill jars. Potters shape vessels. Children help transport smaller containers. Like bread, water depends upon many ordinary people quietly doing their work. The family lies down upon woven sleeping mats. Blankets are simple. The room is warm. Outside, the desert slowly releases the heat collected throughout the day. A soft breeze enters through the doorway. It carries the smell of damp river reeds. The scribe closes his eyes. Sleep comes easily after honest labor. Long before dawn returns, the village rests together beneath countless stars. Hours pass almost unnoticed. The moon crosses slowly overhead. Jackals call faintly somewhere beyond the fields. Farther away, hidden among papyrus reeds, water birds shift quietly in their nests. The Nile never completely sleeps. Its current continues flowing through darkness exactly as it flowed yesterday and exactly as it will tomorrow. Before the first light appears, another familiar morning quietly begins. The sky is still deep blue when the scribe opens his eyes once again. He needs no alarm. Years of habit wake him with gentle certainty. For a few peaceful moments he remains still. His family continues sleeping. The room feels cooler than it did the evening before. Outside, the world waits patiently. He steps into the fresh morning air. Tiny drops of moisture rest upon some reeds beside the canal. The desert itself rarely knows dew, but near the river, the morning sometimes offers this small gift. Birdsong begins slowly. One voice. Then another. Soon the reeds are filled with soft calls greeting another day. The eastern horizon brightens almost without anyone noticing. Light returns little by little. There is never any hurry. The scribe washes his face with cool water. The simple act clears the last traces of sleep from his mind. His wife quietly hands him a small piece of fresh bread left from the evening meal. He thanks her with a gentle smile. Words are few this early. Comfort does not always require conversation. The village wakes in layers. First the bakers. Then the women preparing grain. Soon after come the farmers leading animals toward the fields. Children wake more slowly. Some remain wrapped in blankets while listening to adults beginning another day's routine. Smoke rises from the first cooking fires. Thin gray lines drift upward into the brightening sky. The smell of baking bread once again spreads through the narrow streets. It is a smell that greets nearly every sunrise in Egypt. The scribe walks once more toward the granary. He passes irrigation channels where calm water reflects the growing light. Farmers are already opening small earthen gates to guide water toward waiting fields. The channels must be watched carefully. Too much water can damage young plants. Too little leaves them thirsty beneath the coming sun. The work requires patience. Much like counting grain. When he reaches the storehouse, the first wagons have not yet arrived. Only a few workers stand outside stretching tired muscles before another long day begins. The air still feels cool enough to enjoy. No one wastes this pleasant hour. Some sweep yesterday's scattered grain from the courtyard. Others inspect ropes, baskets, and measuring containers. Everything must be ready before the harvest begins flowing in again. The heavy wooden doors open once more. The familiar scent of grain greets everyone like an old friend. Inside, thousands of baskets wait quietly in neat rows. The scribe unrolls fresh papyrus. He dips his reed pen into black ink. Outside, the first ox cart appears through the morning mist, moving steadily along the dusty road as another peaceful day of counting grain taxes begins, just as it has for countless seasons beside the timeless waters of the Nile. The first cart reaches the granary just as the morning sun rises above the eastern horizon. Its light spreads slowly across the fields, touching the tops of the palm trees before settling upon the dusty road. The shadows are still long. The air is pleasantly cool, though everyone knows it will not remain that way for very long. The oxen move without complaint. Their broad hooves leave deep prints in the soft earth beside the road. Their steady breathing creates small clouds in the cool morning air. They have walked this same path many times before, carrying grain from the villages to the storehouses that quietly watch over the harvest. The farmer guiding them speaks softly. There is no need to urge the animals forward. They already know where they are going. Routine belongs not only to people but to the creatures that live beside them. The scribe watches the cart enter the courtyard. He recognizes the farmer almost immediately. The man has visited every harvest season for many years. His beard has become a little whiter since their first meeting. His shoulders have become slightly more rounded from decades of lifting heavy bundles beneath the sun. Yet his smile remains gentle. Neither man knows very much about the other's family. They rarely speak beyond the work before them. Still, there is a quiet familiarity between them. Some friendships are built through long conversations. Others grow from simply seeing the same face year after year. The farmer bows his head politely. The scribe returns the greeting. Soon the measuring begins. 2 laborers lift the first sack from the cart. The woven fibers have become smooth from use. The sack itself has likely carried many harvests before this one. Nothing is wasted if it can still serve another season. The grain pours into the measuring basket. It falls with a soft rushing sound like dry rain. Golden kernels settle naturally into place. Another worker carefully levels the top using a flat wooden board. No extra grain should remain above the measure. No grain should be missing either. Fairness depends upon careful measurement. The scribe writes another line upon the papyrus. His hand moves almost effortlessly now. Years of practice have made each sign familiar. He no longer pauses to think about every stroke. His fingers remember. The same way a potter's hands remember how clay should feel. The same way a fisherman knows the weight of his net before lifting it. The same way a baker senses when dough has rested long enough. Knowledge often settles quietly into the body. It becomes part of everyday life. More carts arrive as the morning continues. The courtyard slowly fills with people from neighboring villages. Some have walked since before moonset. Others traveled along canals by small boats before loading grain onto waiting wagons. Each family carries its own pace. Some arrive laughing gently together. Others seem quietly tired after long journeys. A grandmother steps carefully beside one cart. Though her back bends with age, she insists upon carrying a small basket herself. Her grandson offers to help. She smiles kindly but keeps walking. Perhaps the basket is not heavy. Perhaps carrying it reminds her that she still contributes. Work is often shared between generations. Children learn by watching. Parents teach without many words. Grandparents pass along habits formed over entire lifetimes. The scribe notices the old woman only briefly before returning to his writing. Yet her quiet determination remains in his thoughts for a little while. He has seen many people grow older. Every harvest season reveals small changes. Children become young adults. Young adults begin bringing children of their own. Strong laborers eventually walk more slowly. Nothing feels sudden. Time moves gently here. The morning sun climbs higher. Its warmth spreads across the courtyard. The thick mud brick walls still offer welcome shade, and several workers take turns standing inside whenever possible. Nobody escapes the heat entirely. Even the scribes feel it. Sweat forms beneath linen collars. Ink dries a little faster. Hands become dusty from turning papyrus pages. A young assistant carries fresh water from the village well. The clay jars feel wonderfully cool against his arms. Their thick walls protect the water from the growing heat outside. He carefully fills small cups for each worker. No one drinks quickly. The water is precious. It deserves appreciation. The first sip feels refreshing. The second restores tired muscles. By the third sip, conversation becomes easier again. Nearby, one laborer quietly thanks the young assistant. The boy smiles with quiet pride. His task may seem small, yet everyone depends upon it. Without water, no one could continue working for very long. The scribe thinks about how every job connects with another. His records depend upon measured grain. Measured grain depends upon harvests. Harvests depend upon farmers. Farmers depend upon water. Water depends upon canals kept clear throughout the year. Canals depend upon laborers. Laborers depend upon bread. Bread depends upon grain. The circle continues without end. Nothing stands alone. As the morning unfolds, a government inspector arrives from a larger town farther down the Nile. His journey has taken several days by boat. Dust covers the hem of his linen robe. His sandals show signs of long travel. He is not an important official surrounded by servants. He is simply another careful worker whose responsibility is to review the accuracy of records. He greets the scribes politely before examining several completed papyrus rolls. His eyes move slowly over each line. Now and then he asks a quiet question. This village, did the flood reach all their fields? The scribe nods. It reached most of them. And the western fields? They remained a little dry. The inspector makes a small note. No argument follows. No raised voices disturb the morning. Both men seek the same thing. Accurate records. The inspector smiles gently before returning the papyrus. Very careful work. The compliment is simple. The scribe bows his head slightly. Praise is rare in such work. Accuracy is usually expected rather than celebrated. Still, kind words settle warmly inside the heart. The inspector moves on to another table. The scribe returns to writing. The courtyard gradually grows busier. Grain flows steadily from carts into storage baskets. Dust sparkles in shafts of sunlight. A small breeze occasionally drifts through the open doorway, stirring loose chaff across the floor before disappearing again. The smell of dry barley fills the air. It mixes with warm wood, fresh rope, sun-heated clay, and distant cooking fires from the village. The scent is earthy, comforting, familiar. Near midday, work pauses briefly. Not because everything is finished. Simply because bodies require rest. The laborers gather beneath a cluster of date palms where the shade is deepest. Some sit directly upon the ground. Others lean against baskets turned upside down. No one seems concerned about appearance. Comfort matters more than dignity after hours of lifting heavy loads. The scribe joins them. Though his hands are stained with ink rather than dust, he welcomes the chance to stretch his back. Someone unwraps fresh bread. Another opens a small basket of figs. A fisherman shares dried fish caught earlier in the week. One family has brought cucumbers cooled overnight in damp cloth. Food passes quietly from hand to hand. No feast. No celebration. Only a simple meal shared among tired workers. The breeze carries the sound of the Nile. Though the river cannot be seen from beneath the trees, its presence is never far away. Water moves steadily toward the north. Small boats drift with the current. Larger boats spread woven sails whenever the wind allows. Merchants travel. Fishermen work. Messengers carry news between towns. The Nile quietly connects them all. After eating, many workers close their eyes for a few moments. Some do not sleep. They simply rest. A hat pulled low across the face. Hands folded over the stomach. Breathing slow and even. The stillness is peaceful. Even the birds seem quieter during the hottest part of the day. The scribe watches sunlight filtering through palm leaves above him. Tiny patches of light dance gently upon the ground whenever the breeze moves the branches. He remembers learning to write as a young boy. His own teacher had been patient. Very patient. Hour after hour they practiced simple signs. Again. Again. And again. At first his hand had cramped. His lines wandered. Ink blotted the papyrus. He wondered whether he would ever become skilled enough to keep official records. Years passed. Practice became habit. Habit became confidence. Now his own writing appears as natural as breathing. He quietly hopes that one day another young student will learn the same steady patience. There is honor in careful work. Even when few people notice it. The short rest ends naturally. No bell rings. No order is shouted. One worker simply stands. Another follows. Soon everyone is moving once again. The afternoon begins. The sunlight softens almost too slowly to notice. Fresh carts continue arriving from villages farther inland. Some roads are rough. One wagon loses a wooden peg from its wheel just outside the granary. The driver sighs quietly. He has seen this happen before. Several nearby laborers immediately help lift the cart. A carpenter working close by produces a spare peg from his tool pouch. Within a short time the wheel is repaired. The journey continues. No one expects payment. Tomorrow another traveler may help them instead. Communities survive through many small acts of kindness. The scribe records another village. Then another. His reed pen becomes slightly worn. During a quiet moment he trims its tip with a small bronze knife. Only a few careful cuts. The point becomes sharp once more. He tests it upon a scrap of papyrus. The ink flows smoothly. Satisfied, he resumes writing. Outside, two children sit beneath the shade of an acacia tree while waiting for their parents. The older sister quietly braids dried grass into small rings. Her younger brother watches ants carrying tiny pieces of grain much larger than themselves. He studies them with complete attention. Every few moments another ant joins the line. Together they disappear beneath a stone. The boy smiles. Even the smallest creatures seem busy during harvest season. As the afternoon slowly stretches toward evening, the granary fills with the warm golden light that comes only near sunset. The harsh brightness of midday fades. Long shadows return across the courtyard. The day's heat begins its slow retreat. Workers speak a little more. Laughter appears here and there, soft and tired. Someone tells a familiar story that many have heard before. Still they smile. Some stories are worth hearing many times. Not because they surprise anyone, but because they feel comfortable. Like walking the same road home. Like hearing water against the riverbank. Like watching another peaceful sunset settle over the quiet fields of Egypt, while inside the cool granary, the patient work of counting grain continues one careful line at a time. The evening settles gently over the village once again. The last rays of sunlight rest upon the tops of the grain baskets before slowly fading into softer colors. The courtyard that had been filled with the steady rhythm of work throughout the day begins to empty little by little. There is no sudden ending. The pace simply becomes slower until only a handful of workers remain. The scribe places his reed pen across the edge of his writing board and rubs his fingers together. Fine dust has settled into every small line of his hands. Grain dust feels different from ordinary road dust. It is softer, lighter. It clings gently to the skin before disappearing with a splash of water. He studies the final record of the day. One village delivered a little more barley than expected. Another village brought slightly less after a section of farmland had remained too dry during the flood season. Nothing unusual. Every harvest tells its own quiet story. No 2 years are exactly alike. Yet every year follows the same familiar rhythm. Planting, growing, harvesting, measuring, counting, storing, baking, eating, beginning again. The inspector who had arrived earlier carefully closes the wooden chest holding the completed papyrus rolls. He presses the lid down firmly before tying it with a braided linen cord. The records will travel by boat in a few days. Some will be copied again by other scribes in larger government offices farther north. Others will remain here, stored safely inside the granary for future reference. Few people outside the administration will ever read them. Yet they will quietly preserve the memory of villages that might otherwise disappear with time. A child's name written beside a father's. The amount of grain gathered from one narrow field. The year when the Nile rose especially high. The season when insects damaged part of the harvest. Small details. Ordinary details. Together they become history. The great wooden doors begin closing. Several laborers push together against the heavy beams. The doors move slowly, their familiar creak echoing across the courtyard. Inside, the grain rests peacefully in darkness. Thousands upon thousands of carefully measured baskets wait for the months ahead. Some will feed nearby villages. Some will supply temple workers. Some will support laborers repairing canals or building public works. Each basket has a future purpose. For now, they simply wait. The evening breeze arrives at exactly the right moment. It moves across the open fields before entering the village streets. After the long heat of the afternoon, the cooler air feels almost luxurious. People pause without thinking. Some lift their faces toward the breeze. Others close their eyes for just a moment. The body notices comfort long before the mind gives it a name. The scribe begins his walk home. The dusty road looks different beneath the evening light. Children who had spent the afternoon helping their parents now chase each other between the houses with renewed energy. Their tiredness has briefly disappeared. A little laughter drifts through the air. Nearby, two elderly men sit upon a low mud brick wall watching the village settle into night. They have finished their own work long ago. Now they simply observe. They notice who has returned from the fields. Which carts are still arriving. Which neighbors carry fresh bread. Life passes slowly before them. There is no hurry to speak. Sometimes they exchange only a few quiet words before returning to comfortable silence. The scribe nods politely as he passes. One of the old men smiles. Another full day. The scribe answers with a gentle nod. The grain keeps coming. The old man chuckles softly. That is good for everyone. It is a simple conversation. Only a few words. Yet both men understand everything left unsaid. A full granary means fewer worries during the months ahead. As he continues walking, the sounds of the village change once more. Stone grinding wheels turn steadily as the last flour of the day is prepared. The deep, rhythmic scrape of stone against stone has become one of the most familiar sounds in Egyptian life. Many women have spent years performing this daily task. Their hands know exactly how much pressure to use. Their shoulders move in slow, practiced motions. Flour gathers little by little inside shallow bowls. Nearby, clay ovens glow with fading heat. Fresh loaves are removed one after another. Steam rises into the cool evening air. The smell is rich and warm. Bread has many scents depending upon the grain, the oven, and the baker's careful hands. Some loaves are darker. Others lighter. Some are round. Some are slightly flat. Each carries the quiet mark of the family who made it. The scribe's wife has already begun preparing the evening meal. She kneels beside a low table, slicing onions with a small bronze knife whose edge has been sharpened countless times. A clay pot simmers gently over the fire. Inside, lentils bubble slowly with herbs gathered from nearby gardens. The fragrance fills their small courtyard. It is not a rich meal. It does not need to be. Simple food prepared with care satisfies both hunger and spirit. Their eldest daughter has returned from collecting water earlier in the afternoon. She carefully pours some into a large storage jar inside the house. The clay vessel keeps the water surprisingly cool. She wipes a few drops from the outside with a linen cloth before placing a lid over the opening. Her younger brother watches with curiosity. He asks why the outside of the jar always feels damp. His sister smiles. It helps keep the water cool. He touches the smooth clay with one finger. It feels like morning. She laughs quietly. Yes. Children often discover small wonders hidden inside ordinary things. The family gathers for supper as darkness slowly covers the village. An oil lamp burns steadily between them. Its flame flickers whenever the breeze enters through the doorway. Soft shadows move across the mud brick walls. Outside, stars begin appearing one by one. The sky above Egypt is wonderfully clear. Without bright lights to compete against them, the stars seem almost close enough to touch. The youngest child asks his father another question. Do you remember every basket you count? The scribe smiles thoughtfully. No. Then how do you know you counted them? I trust the writing. The boy thinks carefully. So the writing remembers for you. His father nods. Yes. The child seems pleased with the answer. For several moments everyone simply eats together in peaceful silence. The only sounds are the breaking of bread, quiet breathing, and the soft crackle of the cooking fire. After the meal, the family carries their mats outside for a while. The air inside the house still holds the warmth of the day. Outside, the breeze is cooler. Many neighbors are doing exactly the same. Across the village, families gather beneath the open sky before bedtime. Some tell stories. Others sing gentle songs that have been passed from parent to child for generations. One elderly woman quietly hums while weaving a reed basket. Her hands never stop moving. Even in the fading light, she knows each movement by memory. Nearby, a young father carefully repairs a pair of worn sandals. He threads fresh leather through tiny holes using a bone needle. Tomorrow those sandals will carry him back into the fields before sunrise. Nothing is thrown away if it can still serve. The scribe leans back and looks toward the stars. His son lies beside him. The little boy points upward. Do the stars count us? The question hangs softly in the warm night air. His father smiles. I don't know. They always seem to be watching. They have watched many people. The child becomes quiet. Perhaps that answer is enough. The stars have watched farmers plant fields. They have watched fishermen cast nets into the Nile. They have watched scribes carefully write records upon fresh papyrus. They have watched children become parents and parents become grandparents. The stars remain. People come and go like seasons. The village gradually grows quieter. One lamp after another disappears. Doors close gently. Dogs settle near entrances. The smell of cooking fires slowly fades as glowing embers become soft red ash. Somewhere beyond the fields, a night bird calls once before silence returns. The Nile continues its endless journey through the darkness. Though hidden from sight now, its gentle current never rests. Boats tied along the riverbank rock almost imperceptibly. Reeds whisper together whenever the breeze passes. Fish move beneath the surface unseen. The river carries moonlight upon its back. Long after midnight, while nearly everyone sleeps, a small patrol of watchmen walks slowly through the village. Their task is simple. They check that storage buildings remain secure. They watch for signs of fire. They listen for anything unusual. Most nights are uneventful. Tonight is one of them. They pass quietly beneath the stars before disappearing into the darkness again. Inside his home, the scribe sleeps deeply. His breathing is slow and steady. His hands, stained faintly with ink despite repeated washing, rest peacefully beside him. Tomorrow they will once again hold a reed pen. Tomorrow they will write more names. More numbers. More careful records. The work never truly ends. Yet neither does the harvest. Nor the planting. Nor the river. Long before dawn, the village rests in complete stillness. The moon begins sinking toward the western horizon. Its pale light slowly fades. The stars remain bright for a little while longer before the first hint of morning quietly touches the eastern sky. The coolness before sunrise lasts only a short time. It is treasured by everyone who wakes early. The first person to rise this morning is not the scribe. It is an old baker whose family has prepared bread for the village for longer than anyone can remember. He quietly steps outside carrying a small bundle of dry reeds. The oven must be heated before anyone else begins their day. He arranges the fuel carefully. A single spark becomes a tiny flame. The flame grows little by little. Soon the familiar smell of warm bread will once again drip through the sleeping streets. Not far away, another family begins grinding grain before sunrise. The steady rhythm of stone upon stone quietly joins the sounds of waking birds. A fisherman unties his small boat and pushes gently away from the riverbank. The water barely ripples. Mist floats low above the Nile, softening the distant shoreline. Palm trees appear almost like shadows through the pale morning haze. The world feels calm. Almost dreamlike. The scribe opens his eyes. Another day has arrived. He folds his sleeping mat. He drinks cool water. He steps outside into the peaceful morning. Far ahead, beyond the quiet village, the granary waits with its thick mud brick walls, its carefully stacked baskets, and another long day of patient counting ready to unfold beneath the gentle rising sun of ancient Egypt. The morning arrives so quietly that it almost seems to appear without movement. A pale ribbon of light stretches across the eastern horizon, gently pushing the darkness away from the fertile banks of the Nile. The stars begin to fade, not all at once, but one by one, until only the brightest remain. Above the western desert, the moon lingers for a little while longer before slowly disappearing into the growing light. The village wakes in its familiar order. Long before the streets become busy, the smell of fresh bread begins drifting through the cool air. The old baker has already been working for some time. His oven glows with gentle heat. He kneels before it with the calm confidence of someone who has repeated the same movements nearly every morning of his life. His hands no longer need to think. They know exactly how the dough should feel. They know when the fire is too strong. They know when another handful of dry reeds should be added. The dough has rested through the night beneath a linen cloth. Now he shapes each loaf carefully. No two look exactly alike. Some become slightly rounder. Others are flatter. A few carry tiny cracks across their tops before entering the oven. The baker smiles softly. Imperfection belongs to handmade things. Soon the first loaves begin to brown. Warm air carries their rich aroma into the narrow streets. Windows remain simple openings without glass, allowing the comforting scent to wander freely from house to house. One by one, families begin stirring from sleep. Children turn over beneath their blankets. Parents sit up slowly, stretching backs that still remember yesterday's work. Outside, a rooster announces the new day. Nearby donkeys answer with sleepy calls of their own. The village feels as though it is taking one long, peaceful breath before beginning another day. The scribe steps outside carrying his small writing board beneath one arm. The wood has grown smooth over the years where his fingers naturally rest. Small scratches cover its surface. Each mark tells of another season spent recording harvests. His reed pens are wrapped inside clean linen to keep their delicate tips from bending. He unties the cloth for only a moment to inspect them. Everything appears ready. He carefully wraps them again. Good tools deserve quiet attention before the day's work begins. His wife hands him a small breakfast. A piece of warm bread. A few dates. A little cheese made from goat's milk. Nothing more is needed. The meal is simple, filling, and familiar. They exchange only a few words. Morning conversations are often short. Everyone knows the day's duties already. No long discussion is necessary. As the scribe walks toward the granary, he notices tiny changes brought by the new season. The air carries a little more warmth than it did several weeks earlier. Some flowering plants near the irrigation canals have already begun to fade beneath the growing heat. Palm fronds rustle gently overhead. Their shadows dance across the dusty path with every passing breeze. A flock of white birds rises suddenly from the reeds beside the river. For a few moments they circle together above the water before settling farther downstream. The Nile reflects the soft colors of dawn. Its surface remains almost perfectly smooth. Only the gentle wake of a passing fishing boat disturbs the calm. The fisherman stands quietly near the stern. His net lies folded beside him. There is no hurry. Fish are found through patience rather than speed. The scribe often admires that. Many kinds of work share the same quiet lesson. The granary appears ahead, standing solidly against the brightening sky. Its thick mud brick walls have endured many summers. The corners have become slightly rounded from wind and time. Small birds perch along the roof beams before fluttering away as the workers arrive. The keeper of the keys reaches the entrance just ahead of the scribe. He carries the heavy bronze key ring tucked beneath his arm. The keys clink softly together as he walks. Each lock has its own shape. Each key has been carefully made. He selects the correct one without hesitation. The great wooden doors open slowly. Cool air greets them from inside. Even after countless mornings, the scribe always notices the familiar scent waiting beyond the doorway. Dry grain. Fresh papyrus. Clay jars. Wood worn smooth by many hands. It is the smell of careful work. The workers enter one after another. Before any carts arrive, the granary enjoys a brief hour of peaceful order. Rows of baskets stand quietly in the dim light. Nothing moves. Nothing needs attention just yet. The laborers begin sweeping the floor with reed brooms. Small piles of scattered grain are gathered carefully. Not because they amount to much, but because every kernel matters. A sparrow lands nearby, hoping for breakfast. It hops across the floor with tiny, quick movements before finding a few forgotten grains near the wall. The workers smile. There is enough for everyone. The scribe unrolls a fresh sheet of papyrus. Its pale surface catches the first rays of sunlight entering through the doorway. He dips his reed pen into black ink. For a moment, he simply waits. The first line of every page always feels quiet. Empty space holding tomorrow's history. Soon enough, names and numbers will fill it. Outside, the sound of approaching wheels grows slowly louder. The first wagons are arriving. Today's grain comes from villages a little farther south. The journey has taken longer. Dust covers every cart. The oxen move patiently despite the distance. One farmer climbs down slowly, stretching stiff legs before greeting the officials. His wife follows carrying a small woven basket. Inside are several figs wrapped carefully in leaves. She offers them to the workers as thanks for allowing them to rest in the shade while the grain is measured. No one expects gifts. Yet small kindnesses often appear during long days. The figs are shared among everyone. Their sweetness feels refreshing after the simple breakfast. The youngest laborer has never tasted fruit from this particular village before. He remarks that they seem especially soft. An older worker nods. Their orchards grow close to deeper water. The conversation ends there. No one feels the need to say more. The measuring begins once again. The wooden measure is placed upon the ground. Grain flows steadily into it. A worker smooths the top with practiced hands. The scribe records the amount. Another basket follows. Then another. The rhythm settles around them like a familiar song. Measure. Level. Pour. Write. Repeat. Time passes almost unnoticed. The courtyard gradually fills with quiet industry. Some workers stack newly measured baskets inside the storehouse. Others repair worn ropes. One man carefully replaces the woven handle of a basket that has served through many harvests. He sits cross-legged in the shade, threading fresh reeds together with remarkable patience. His fingers move slowly but never hesitate. He learned basket weaving from his father. His father learned it from his own father. Some skills travel through generations without ever being written down. Only the hands remember. Near midday, the sunlight grows brighter. Heat settles across the village like a heavy blanket. The walls of the granary continue protecting the stored grain from the worst of the sun. Inside, the air remains cooler than outside, though not by much. The laborers tie strips of linen around their foreheads to keep sweat from their eyes. The scribe wipes his brow with a small cloth before returning to his records. A tiny drop of sweat lands near the edge of the papyrus. He waits patiently for it to dry before continuing. Good records should remain clean whenever possible. A mistake caused by haste may remain for many years. Outside, two canal workers pause beside the road. They carry long wooden shovels polished smooth from constant use. Their morning has been spent clearing mud and reeds from an irrigation channel. Without that work, water would flow less freely toward distant fields. Their task is dirty. Their feet are coated in wet black mud. Their tunics cling to their backs. Yet they smile when offered cool water. Every worker understands another's tiredness. No explanation is needed. The canal workers rest only briefly before continuing on. The canals cannot wait. Water follows its own quiet schedule. If the channels are neglected even for a short time, fields farther away may receive too little water. The scribe watches them disappear down the dusty road. He thinks again about how every occupation depends upon another. His own work appears very different from theirs. One writes. The other digs. Yet both protect the harvest. Both serve the villages. Both help place bread upon family tables. By early afternoon, the air has become wonderfully still. Even the palm leaves barely move. The birds seek shade among the branches. Dogs sleep beneath carts where the ground remains cooler. Voices grow softer. The heat encourages silence. Only the steady sound of grain pouring from basket to basket continues without interruption. It is a peaceful sound. Gentle. Constant. Almost like flowing water. The scribe looks up for a moment. Through the open doorway, he can see the Nile shimmering beneath the afternoon sun. The river seems almost too bright to look at directly. Beyond it, green fields stretch outward before slowly giving way to the pale sands of the desert. The contrast has always fascinated him. Life and dryness standing side by side. The fertile earth exists because the river never forgets its journey. He lowers his eyes once more. Another farmer waits. Another basket. Another careful line of writing. Another quiet page added to the growing record of ordinary lives beside the timeless waters of ancient Egypt. The afternoon settles gently over the granary, bringing with it the slow, steady warmth that has become as familiar as the turning of the seasons. The bright light outside softens just enough to make the distant fields appear almost golden. Dust hangs quietly in the air, glowing wherever sunlight slips through the open doorway. Inside, the work continues without interruption. The rhythm has become so steady that each person seems to know the next movement before it happens. A basket is carried forward. The grain is poured. The measure is leveled. The amount is spoken aloud. The scribe writes. Then another basket takes its place. No one rushes. No one lingers. The pace belongs to the work itself. The scribe notices how different kinds of footsteps sound upon the packed earth floor. The older laborers walk with slow confidence. Their sandals scrape gently as they move from one row of baskets to another. The younger workers step more quickly. Their feet land with a little more energy. Children who occasionally help carry empty baskets almost seem to skip across the courtyard without realizing it. Every sound becomes part of the day's quiet music. A swallow flies through the open doorway. It circles once beneath the wooden beams, searching for insects stirred by the movement of people. For a moment everyone glances upward. The bird twists gracefully through the warm air before disappearing into the bright afternoon. The silence that follows feels even deeper than before. Near one wall stands a long row of clay jars filled with drinking water. Their rounded sides remain cool despite the heat outside. Every hour or so, another worker fills small cups for those carrying the heaviest loads. The water tastes faintly of the river and the clay that protects it. No one complains. To thirsty workers, it is refreshing beyond measure. One elderly laborer pauses beside the jars. His white hair peeks from beneath a simple linen cloth wrapped around his head. He drinks slowly. Then he closes his eyes for just a moment. The cool water seems to wash away the weariness of the morning. When he opens them again, he smiles quietly. There is still strength enough for the rest of the day. The scribe has watched this man work for many years. He remembers when the laborer was younger, lifting 2 baskets where others carried only 1. Now age has gently changed his pace. He carries lighter loads. The younger men often step forward before he asks for help. No one speaks about it. It simply happens. Respect is shown through small actions. The old laborer still contributes. His experience remains valuable. He knows which baskets should be stacked first. He notices when a rope begins to weaken. He remembers where grain from different villages has been stored during past harvests. Wisdom grows quietly over time. It rarely announces itself. The afternoon breeze finally arrives. It slips through the doorway carrying the fresh scent of river water. The breeze moves across the rows of baskets and gently stirs the loose ends of linen garments. Several workers pause without meaning to. Even a light wind feels generous after the stillness of the day. Outside, the reeds beside the Nile begin to sway together. Their whispering sound reaches the granary only faintly. It blends with the distant calls of water birds hidden among the marshes. The scribe lifts his eyes toward the doorway. For a few moments he watches sunlight dancing upon the surface of the river. The Nile never appears exactly the same. Some mornings it shines silver. Some evenings it glows gold. Today it seems almost blue beneath the clear sky. Tiny ripples sparkle wherever the breeze touches the water. Several fishermen guide their narrow boats toward the shallows. Their nets lie neatly folded. Soon they will cast them into quiet places where fish gather beneath floating plants. Fishing, like counting grain, asks for patience. The best moments cannot be hurried. A young assistant enters carrying another bundle of fresh papyrus. He places it carefully beside the scribe. The sheets have been rolled tightly to protect them during travel. The scribe thanks him. He gently unrolls one sheet and smooths it across the writing board with both hands. The surface feels cool beneath his fingertips. He enjoys this small moment before the first mark is made. Blank papyrus holds endless possibility. Soon it will carry names that future generations may never know. Yet for today, those names matter deeply. Each one belongs to someone who planted seeds, waded through the growing season, and gathered the harvest beneath the Egyptian sun. A farmer approaches the writing table. His face is weathered from many years outdoors. Deep lines surround his eyes. His hands are broad and rough. Small scars cross his fingers where sharp grain stalks once cut the skin during harvest. He removes his simple linen head covering and bows politely. The scribe recognizes him. Not by name at first, but by his calm expression. Memory often begins with faces. The farmer waits while the measurements are completed. Neither man feels uncomfortable during the silence. Quiet moments are common here. Eventually the scribe looks up. Your village had good water this season. The farmer nods. The flood was kind. He says nothing more. Those 4 words contain an entire year's worth of gratitude. The flood was kind. Fields were watered. Seeds grew. Children were fed. Animals remained healthy. The granary became full. Sometimes history changes because of kings. Sometimes it changes because a river rises just enough. The farmer accepts his receipt, marked with the official seal pressed into soft clay. He thanks the scribe once more before leading his empty cart toward the village road. The oxen walk more lightly now. Their burden has been delivered. Clouds begin to gather far to the south. They are thin and high, hardly more than soft streaks across the blue sky. Few people pay them much attention. Rain is rare here. The clouds simply add gentle shapes to the afternoon. The sunlight passing through them becomes softer. Shadows lose their sharp edges. The entire landscape seems quieter. Near the entrance, two young boys wait patiently while their mother speaks with one of the officials. One boy traces little circles in the dust with a stick. The other carefully lines up small pebbles beside his sandals. Neither game has rules. Neither needs any. Children have always known how to pass the time while adults work. Now and then they glance toward the grain baskets with wide, curious eyes. They wonder how much grain is inside. Perhaps they imagine mountains of bread. Perhaps they simply enjoy watching the steady movement of busy people. The younger boy notices a tiny beetle crossing the courtyard. He follows it carefully without touching it. The beetle disappears beneath a loose reed mat. The child smiles as though he has discovered a secret. The world offers quiet wonders to those willing to notice them. As the afternoon slowly begins leaning toward evening, the granary grows cooler once again. The thick walls have done their work. Inside, the air feels comfortable compared with the open fields. Several workers begin organizing the day's completed stacks. Every basket must stand in exactly the right place. Small clay labels are checked one final time. Village names. Harvest dates. Measurements. Everything must remain orderly. If grain is needed months from now, it should be found without confusion. The scribe reviews his pages. His eyes move slowly down each column. Every number receives another careful look. One figure seems slightly unclear. Perhaps the ink spread a little while it was still wet. He compares it with the earlier notes. Satisfied, he carefully traces the sign again so future readers will understand it without doubt. He has learned never to leave uncertainty behind. Tomorrow someone else may depend upon today's records. Outside, the shadows lengthen across the fields. Workers returning from irrigation canals carry their tools over tired shoulders. Fishermen begin rowing home with modest catches resting in woven baskets. Women gather bundles of reeds for weaving mats and baskets during the cooler evening hours. Goats wander slowly back toward their pens. The village changes its pace once more. Day gently prepares to become night. The smell of cooking fires begins to drift across the landscape. Fresh bread is baked again. Lentils simmer quietly in clay pots. Onions roast over glowing coals. The comforting aromas mingle with the scent of warm earth and river reeds. The scribe closes the final papyrus of the afternoon. He ties it neatly with a linen cord and places it beside the growing collection of completed records. Another day's work has quietly found its place among many others. Outside, the sun lowers toward the western desert. Its light bathes the granary walls in warm shades of amber. The baskets cast long shadows across the floor. The workers continue for a little while longer, moving calmly through the golden light, while beyond the village the Nile flows onward, patient as ever, carrying the peaceful rhythm of ancient Egypt into another quiet evening. The golden light of late afternoon slowly gives way to the gentler colors of evening. The edges of every basket, every clay jar, and every wooden beam seem softer now. Shadows stretch across the courtyard until they reach the great doors of the granary, where they quietly rest upon the packed earth. The workers feel the change before they look at the sky. The heat that had pressed gently upon their shoulders throughout the day begins to loosen its hold. A breeze arrives from the direction of the Nile. It carries the cool scent of water and damp reeds. After many hours surrounded by dry grain and warm dust, the fresh air feels like a quiet gift. One of the younger laborers pauses near the doorway. He closes his eyes for only a heartbeat. The breeze touches his face before continuing through the building. It stirs the corners of several papyrus sheets resting beside the scribe. The pages lift slightly, then settle again. The scribe places a smooth stone upon them. He has learned over many years that the evening wind is gentle, but it enjoys playing with loose papers. He smiles to himself. Even the breeze seems to have its own familiar habits. Across the courtyard, two workers finish stacking the final baskets delivered that day. Each basket must rest securely upon the one beneath it. The stacks rise almost as tall as a man. The woven reeds creak softly as another basket is placed on top. The men step back together. They study their work. One basket leans ever so slightly. Without speaking, they remove it and place it again. This time it sits perfectly. Neither man considers the extra effort wasted. Doing the task well is easier than correcting it later. The granary grows quieter. Many of the visiting farmers have already begun their journeys home. The roads leading away from the village are filled with slow-moving carts. The oxen seem to understand that the heaviest work is finished. Their pace is relaxed. Their tails swish gently at the evening flies. Families walk beside them. Children who had been lively in the morning now hold their parents' hands with sleepy eyes. Some little ones ride upon the empty grain carts. The wooden wheels roll steadily over the familiar road. A little girl leans against a sack folded into a cushion. She watches the sky changing colors above the palm trees. Before long, her eyes close. Her mother smiles softly without waking her. The road home can wait. Sleep has arrived first. The scribe remains at his table. There is always one more task before the day truly ends. The records must be checked again. He unrolls the longest sheet completed that afternoon. The papyrus makes a quiet rustling sound. Its fibers catch the last warm light entering through the doorway. His eyes travel carefully from top to bottom. Village names. Measurements. Dates. Official marks. He does not hurry. Outside, the world is preparing for evening. Inside, accuracy still deserves his full attention. He notices that one line appears slightly closer to the next than usual. The writing itself is correct. Only the spacing is different. He smiles faintly. Perhaps his hand had grown tired during the hottest hour of the afternoon. Even careful workers leave tiny signs of their humanity. The important thing is that the meaning remains clear. He gently rolls the papyrus once more. Nearby, the keeper of the granary begins his own evening routine. He walks between every row of stored grain. Not because he expects problems. Simply because this is what he has always done. His hand rests lightly against each stack as he passes. He notices a loose piece of woven reed near one basket. He tucks it back into place. Another basket has shifted no more than the width of a finger. He straightens it. Small acts of care prevent larger problems. His work is rarely noticed. That is often the sign that it has been done well. Outside, several women gather near the village well. Large clay jars stand beside them. The evening is the best time to collect water. The air is cooler. The journey home feels easier than it would beneath the midday sun. The women speak quietly while waiting their turn. Their conversation moves gently from one subject to another. A child who has begun walking. A goat expected to have young soon. A neighbor recovering from a fever. The quality of this year's barley. Nothing feels hurried. Their laughter rises now and then before fading back into the peaceful evening. A young boy helps his grandmother carry a smaller water jar. He insists upon doing the work himself. The jar is almost too heavy. He walks slowly, concentrating with all his strength. His grandmother stays close beside him without taking it away. She knows that learning begins with small responsibilities. When they reach home, the boy carefully lowers the jar onto the ground. Only a few drops spill. He looks proudly toward his grandmother. She nods. "You carried it well." The smile that appears on his face is brighter than the evening sky. Not far away, smoke rises gently from dozens of cooking fires. The village slowly fills with comforting scents. Fresh bread. Roasted onions. Lentils simmering in clay pots. A little garlic. A few herbs growing beside irrigation channels. Some families cook fish caught that morning. Others prepare beans or vegetables gathered from nearby gardens. Every meal is simple. Every meal is earned. The scribe finally stands. He stretches slowly. Hours spent leaning over a writing board leave their own quiet stiffness. He rolls his shoulders. His neck. His hands. The small movements bring relief. Writing may seem effortless to those who never perform it for an entire day. In truth, every profession leaves its own gentle marks upon the body. The laborer's shoulders become strong. The potter's hands grow steady. The fisherman's arms learn patience. The scribe's fingers become graceful and precise. Each person carries the shape of their work. Before leaving, he cleans his reed pens. A small cloth removes the remaining ink. The tips are inspected carefully. One pen has begun to split ever so slightly. It has served faithfully for many months. Soon it will need replacing. Not tonight. It still has a little life remaining. He wraps the pens once more inside clean linen. Nearby, another scribe seals a bundle of completed records with damp clay. He presses an official seal gently into its surface. The mark is small. Yet it tells everyone who sees it that the records have been reviewed and accepted. When the clay dries overnight, the bundle will be ready for storage. The two scribes exchange a few quiet words before leaving. How many villages today? 7. A busy day. It was. Neither man speaks of being tired. There is no need. Both already know. They step outside together. The evening light has become almost amber now. The western sky glows softly above the distant desert. Palm trees stand in graceful silhouettes. Birds return to their nests among the reeds. A flock of ibis glides low over the river before disappearing into the marshes. The Nile itself reflects the colors of sunset like polished bronze. Its gentle current never pauses. Even while people finish their work and return home, the river continues its ancient journey. The scribes part at the village crossroads. One walks toward the northern houses. The other continues south. Each follows familiar paths worn smooth by countless footsteps. As the scribe approaches his own home, he hears the steady sound of grinding stones. His wife and eldest daughter are preparing flour for tomorrow morning. The large stone turns slowly. Grain becomes fine powder little by little. It is patient work. The daughter asks if she may stop for a moment. Her mother smiles kindly. Just a little longer. The girl nods. She understands. Morning bread begins with evening preparation. The scribe sets down his writing board near the doorway. His youngest son runs over to greet him, carrying a tiny reed boat he has made that afternoon. The little boat is no longer than the boy's hand. Its sail is a scrap of old linen. Its mast is a thin piece of palm stem. The boy proudly places it into a shallow bowl of water. The tiny boat floats perfectly. His father kneels beside him. It sails well. I made it myself. I can see that. The boy gently pushes the little boat across the water. For a few peaceful moments, the day's work, the grain, the records, and the measurements all seem very far away. Only a father and his son remain, watching a small reed boat drift quietly beneath the soft evening light, while beyond the village the Nile continues to flow through ancient Egypt, carrying another calm day gently toward the embrace of night. Night settles over the village as gently as fine dust drifting onto a quiet road. The last colors of sunset slowly disappear beyond the western desert, leaving behind a deep blue sky filled with countless stars. One by one, the oil lamps inside the homes begin to glow. Their warm light spills softly through open doorways, creating small pools of gold against the cool darkness. The air feels different now. The heavy warmth of the afternoon has faded. A pleasant breeze moves across the fields, through the date palms, and along the banks of the Nile. The reeds whisper together. The river answers with its quiet, endless flow. The village seems to breathe more slowly after the long day. Inside the scribe's home, supper has nearly ended. Only a few pieces of bread remain upon the woven tray. A clay bowl still holds a little lentil stew, fragrant with onions and herbs. The children eat more slowly now than they had at the beginning of the meal. Sleep has already begun to tug gently at their eyes. The youngest boy yawns without trying to hide it. His older sister smiles. You were awake before the birds this morning. I wanted to see father leave. And tomorrow, I'll wake early again. His mother laughs softly. We shall see. The boy smiles, though even he knows tomorrow's promise may disappear beneath a warm blanket before sunrise. The scribe finishes the last sip of cool water from his clay cup. The water tastes wonderfully fresh. The jar had stood all day in the coolest corner of the house. Its thick walls kept the heat away, just as they had done every summer for many years. He places the empty cup beside the water jar. Its smooth rim has been worn slightly by countless evenings like this one. Simple objects remain faithful companions through the passing seasons. Outside, neighbors begin gathering beneath the open sky. No one wishes to hurry indoors while the evening is so pleasant. Families bring woven mats into their small courtyards. Some sit upon low stools. Others rest directly upon the earth. The stars above seem brighter than they did the night before. Perhaps they always do. Perhaps people simply notice them more when the day has been peaceful. Across the lane, an elderly woman continues weaving a basket. The basket grows almost imperceptibly. One reed at a time. One careful fold after another. Her fingers move with such confidence that she hardly needs to look. Her granddaughter sits beside her, trying to imitate each movement. The younger hands are slower. The reeds slip out of place now and then. The old woman gently adjusts them without criticism. No hurry. The little girl nods. She tries again. Basket weaving cannot be learned in one evening. Neither can writing. Nor farming. Nor fishing. Almost everything worth doing in this village has been learned through patience. The scribe watches quietly for a while. He remembers his own teacher. An elderly scribe whose beard had already turned white before the young student ever held a reed pen. The old teacher never raised his voice. When a line of writing became crooked, he simply placed another blank sheet of papyrus before the boy. Again. When ink spilled across the page. Again. When numbers were copied incorrectly. Again. Not with anger. Only with patience. Years later, the scribe still hears that gentle voice whenever he begins a new record. Good work grows slowly. The breeze carries the scent of the river into every corner of the village. Somewhere nearby, fresh reeds have been cut for repairing roofs. Their green fragrance mixes with the smell of warm bread cooling upon wooden shelves. A little farther away, someone has begun drying herbs collected that morning. Their gentle aroma drifts through the night air. The village has many scents after sunset. Each one speaks quietly of another day's work completed. Children begin playing simple games beneath the moonlight. They draw shapes in the dust using little sticks. They toss smooth stones toward circles scratched into the ground. Their laughter is soft. No one has enough energy for noisy games after a day spent helping in the fields or around the home. Even childhood follows the rhythm of the harvest. Soon one child grows tired. Then another. Parents gather them gently. Small hands rub sleepy eyes. Tiny sandals are left beside doorways. One by one, the children disappear inside their homes. The village becomes quieter still. The scribe remains outside with his wife. Neither speaks for several moments. They simply listen. A night bird calls from somewhere near the marshes. A donkey shifts its weight. Palm leaves rustle overhead. The sound of the Nile rises and falls with the breeze. Finally his wife speaks. Was today busy? He nods. Many carts. A good harvest. So far. She smiles. That is welcome news. Again silence settles comfortably between them. Not every conversation requires many words. Sometimes shared understanding says enough. Far beyond the village, another granary stands beside another stretch of river. There, another scribe may be rolling his papyrus after a long day. Another family may be eating their evening meal. Another child may be asking curious questions about numbers, grain, or stars. Across Egypt, thousands of ordinary lives unfold at nearly the same gentle pace. Each village has its own names, its own fields, its own stories. Yet they are quietly connected by the river flowing through them all. The moon climbs higher. Its pale light reaches the irrigation canals. The still water reflects the sky so perfectly that stars seem to float beneath the earth as well as above it. Tiny frogs begin calling from the edges of the canals. Insects sing steadily from the grasses. The sounds weave together into the music of the Egyptian night. Inside the granary, darkness rests peacefully among the baskets. The thick walls protect the grain from both heat and moisture. Nothing moves except the occasional little mouse searching for forgotten kernels. It pauses. Listens. Then disappears again between the shadows. Outside, the watchman begins his nightly rounds. He carries a small oil lamp whose flame flickers gently with every step. The light reaches only a short distance into the darkness. Beyond it, the village remains wrapped in moonlight. He walks slowly. There is no danger tonight. Still, habit is important. Every door is checked. Every storage building examined. Every path quietly observed. He greets a neighbor returning from the river. The man carries 2 empty fishing nets across his shoulder. Any luck? A little. Enough. The fisherman smiles. Enough. The watchman nods. That is all either of them needs to know. Enough is a comforting word. Enough grain. Enough bread. Enough water. Enough fish. Enough rest. The scribe finally rises. His children are already asleep inside. The little reed boat still floats quietly in the shallow bowl of water where his son left it. The tiny sail reflects the light from the nearby oil lamp. He smiles. Tomorrow morning the boy will probably launch it again before breakfast. Perhaps he will imagine sailing to distant temples. Perhaps he will pretend to carry grain along the Nile like the great cargo boats. Children build whole worlds from the simplest things. The scribe carefully lifts the little boat from the bowl. He places it on a shelf where it will remain dry overnight. Such small treasures deserve care. Before sleeping, he steps outside one last time. The village has become almost completely silent. Only the river continues speaking in its quiet voice. He looks toward the sky. The stars seem endless. Some are bright. Others barely visible. Together they fill every corner of the heavens. He wonders how many generations before him looked upon this same sky after finishing another day of work. Farmers, builders, potters, boatmen, millers, weavers, fishermen, and countless scribes whose names have long since faded from memory, though their careful records once helped feed an entire kingdom. Tomorrow another page of papyrus will be opened. Another measure of grain will be counted. Another day's quiet history will begin. For now, however, the village belongs to the peaceful hours before dawn. The oil lamp is gently extinguished. The room falls into soft darkness. Outside, the Nile continues its patient journey beneath the stars, flowing steadily through the sleeping land of ancient Egypt as another calm and ordinary night embraces the people whose careful hands, humble routines, and quiet labor keep life moving gently from one sunrise to the next. The deepest hours of the night pass without hurry. Above the valley of the Nile, the stars continue their slow journey across the sky. The moon has drifted farther toward the western horizon, where its pale light gently washes over the desert hills. The warm air has cooled enough that the mud brick walls of the village release the heat they gathered during the long afternoon. The houses rest quietly. The granary rests quietly. Even the animals seem content with the stillness. Only the river continues its endless conversation with the reeds along its banks. Its voice is soft, almost like breathing. Inside the scribe's home, everyone sleeps peacefully. The youngest boy has turned sideways upon his sleeping mat sometime during the night. His little reed boat remains safely upon the shelf, exactly where his father placed it. His sister sleeps with one arm tucked beneath her head. Their mother rests deeply after another day spent grinding grain, carrying water, preparing bread, and tending to the countless small tasks that quietly fill every hour of village life. The scribe sleeps soundly as well. His hands, which spent the day holding a reed pen, now rest loosely beside him. The faint stains of black ink remain near his fingertips. No amount of washing removes every trace. The ink has become part of his daily life. Much as fine flour settles into the hands of a baker. Much as river mud clings to the feet of a farmer. Long before dawn, another figure is already awake. It is the watchman making his final walk before sunrise. His oil lamp has nearly burned away. Only a small flame remains. He walks slowly along the outer edge of the village where cultivated fields meet the open desert. The night is wonderfully quiet. He pauses beside the granary. The heavy wooden doors remain closed. The clay seals are undisturbed. Everything is exactly as it should be. He places one hand upon the cool wood for a brief moment. The grain sleeping inside represents many months of work. Thousands of careful harvests gathered together beneath one roof. He smiles softly before continuing his round. Farther away, along the riverbank, several fishing boats lie tied to wooden posts. Their ropes creak gently whenever the current shifts. The fishermen who own them still sleep. Soon enough they will rise. For now, even the river seems content to let them rest. Mist begins forming above the water. Thin white ribbons drift slowly across the surface. The reeds disappear behind the gentle haze before slowly returning as the mist shifts again. Everything feels peaceful. Everything feels unhurried. A single ibis stands motionless in the shallows. Its reflection stretches across the calm water beneath the fading moon. The bird waits patiently. It knows morning will come. There is no reason to hurry it. Back in the village, the first faint sound of movement comes from the baker's home. He has awakened before almost everyone else. This has been his habit for longer than he can remember. He sits quietly for a moment before standing. His joints move a little more slowly now than they once did. Age has gently settled into his body. He does not resent it. He simply adjusts his pace. Outside, he gathers yesterday's dried palm fronds and small bundles of reeds. The oven must be warmed while the sky is still dark. He kneels before the clay oven and carefully arranges the fuel. One spark. A little smoke. Then a tiny flame. The fire grows slowly. The baker never rushes this part. A patient fire bakes the finest bread. As the flames strengthen, they cast warm orange light across the courtyard. The darkness nearby becomes softer. A clay bowl filled with prepared dough waits beneath a linen cloth. The baker gently lifts the covering. The dough has risen beautifully during the night. He presses one finger lightly into its surface. It slowly springs back. He nods with quiet satisfaction. It is ready. Inside another nearby home, an elderly woman wakes shortly after the baker. She no longer works in the fields. Her children and grandchildren do that now. Still, every morning she enjoys sitting outside before sunrise. She carries a small woven stool into the courtyard. A blanket rests across her shoulders. She watches the stars while the village sleeps. She has seen many mornings begin this way. As a child she watched from beside her mother. As a young woman she watched while rocking babies to sleep. As a mother she watched while waiting for children returning from early fishing trips. Now she watches as a grandmother. The stars have changed very little. The people beneath them have changed constantly. She listens carefully. Soon she hears the familiar scrape of the baker tending his oven. She smiles. The sound has greeted nearly every dawn of her life. Before long, another sound joins it. Grinding stones. A household has begun preparing flour. The heavy upper stone turns steadily against the lower one. The rhythm is slow. Even. Comforting. Soon another grinding stone begins. Then another. One by one the village slowly wakes through these familiar sounds. The scribe opens his eyes just before the first birds begin singing. For a moment he remains still. The room is quiet. Only the soft breathing of his family fills the darkness. He enjoys these few peaceful moments every morning. The day has not yet asked anything of him. No numbers. No records. No measurements. Only silence. He sits up carefully. The sleeping mat is rolled neatly and placed against the wall. Everything inside the house has its place. Keeping order makes daily life easier. He steps outside carrying a small clay cup. The morning air feels wonderfully cool against his face. He fills the cup from the water jar. The first drink of the day is always refreshing. The water has rested quietly throughout the night. Nearby, a small swallow lands upon the roof. Then another. Within moments several birds begin singing together. Their cheerful voices spread across the village as daylight slowly approaches. The eastern sky changes almost unnoticed. Deep blue becomes softer. Then a faint silver line appears beyond the distant palms. The river reflects it immediately. The Nile always seems to notice the sunrise before anyone else. The scribe washes his hands and face. The cool water removes the last traces of sleep. He smooths his linen clothing. His wife quietly wakes and begins preparing the morning meal. No words are needed yet. Each person already knows the rhythm of the morning. Fresh bread from yesterday. A few dates. Cool water. Simple food before another long day. The youngest boy stirs beneath his blanket. He opens one eye. Then the other. For a moment he seems uncertain whether to continue sleeping. Then he remembers. My boat. His father smiles. It is waiting. The boy climbs from his mat and reaches eagerly toward the shelf. The tiny reed boat is exactly where he left it. He holds it carefully with both hands. The little sail remains straight. Nothing has bent during the night. He carries it outside into the cool morning light. A shallow basin still holds water from the evening before. He gently places the boat upon the surface. It floats just as beautifully as it had yesterday. The boy watches it drift in tiny circles. To him, it is not a toy. It is a merchant vessel. A fishing boat. A grand ship carrying grain northward along the Nile. His imagination fills the quiet morning with distant journeys. The scribe watches for a little while. Then he picks up his writing board. His reed pens remain neatly wrapped inside linen. He unties the cloth and checks each pen. The older one has finally worn too much. Its point can no longer produce the fine lines required for official records. He sets it aside. From a small bundle he selects a fresh reed. Its surface is smooth and pale. With his bronze knife he carefully shapes the tip. A few tiny cuts. Nothing more. He tests it upon a scrap of papyrus. The line is thin. Clean. Even. He nods with quiet satisfaction. A new pen. Another season of writing begins for it. Outside, the village grows steadily brighter. The baker removes the first warm loaves from his oven. Steam rises into the cool dawn. The wonderful smell of fresh bread spreads through every narrow lane. Children smile even before they fully awaken. Dogs lift their noses toward the scent. The first farmers begin leading oxen toward the fields. Their footsteps blend with the gentle calls of birds welcoming another peaceful sunrise. The scribe steps onto the dusty path that leads once again toward the granary. Ahead of him, the thick mud brick building waits patiently beside the road, holding yesterday's harvest in quiet safety, ready to receive another day's careful measurements beneath the warm and timeless sun of ancient Egypt. The morning grows brighter, but there is no need to follow it any farther. The scribe reaches the familiar road leading toward the granary, just as he has done on so many quiet mornings before. The same gentle breeze moves across the fields. The same river glides beside the fertile earth. The same birds rise from the reeds as the sun slowly warms the valley. He knows what awaits him. Fresh sheets of papyrus. A carefully trimmed reed pen. Rows of woven baskets filled with grain gathered through months of patient labor. Farmers arriving one by one. Measurements spoken softly. Numbers written with steady hands. Another ordinary day. Another peaceful day. There is comfort in knowing that tomorrow will look much like today. The Nile will continue its endless journey toward the sea. Its waters will rise and fall with the passing seasons, quietly feeding the fields that stretch along its banks. Seeds will become green shoots. Green shoots will become golden grain. Grain will become flour. Flour will become warm bread shared around small family tables beneath the evening sky. Children will grow a little taller with each passing season. Parents will become grandparents. Young hands will learn from older hands. A reed pen will be passed to another careful student. A fishing net will be mended once more. A basket will be woven from fresh reeds. A loaf of bread will be placed into a clay oven before dawn. Life will continue, not through great moments remembered by history, but through thousands of quiet routines repeated with kindness and care. Perhaps, many years from now, the names written upon those papyrus rolls will fade. The ink may grow lighter. The fibers may become fragile. The people who carried those baskets of grain may be forgotten. The little boy with his tiny reed boat may become an old man whose grandchildren ask curious questions beneath the stars. The baker's oven may one day grow cold before another family builds a new one nearby. The watchman's footsteps may fade from the dusty roads. Yet the gentle rhythm of their lives will never truly disappear. It lives within every loaf of bread baked with patient hands. Within every field tended beneath the warm Egyptian sun. Within every quiet act of honest work that asks for no applause. History often remembers kings, monuments, and victories. But the heart of Egypt rested just as surely in its villages. In the women grinding grain before sunrise. In the fishermen drifting quietly upon the Nile. In the children carrying small jars of water with determined hands. In the laborers lifting heavy baskets without complaint. And in the patient scribes who spent long days counting grain, line after careful line, preserving the simple rhythm of everyday life. Now evening returns once more. The desert slowly releases the warmth it gathered during the day. Palm trees stand quietly against a sky painted with soft shades of gold, rose, and deep blue. The last fishing boats glide gently toward the riverbank. Smoke rises lazily from cooking fires. Fresh bread cools upon woven mats. Families gather together beneath the first stars. Oil lamps glow softly inside mud brick homes. The children grow sleepy. Their voices become quieter. The day's work is finished. The river continues flowing, as it always has. It passes silently beside reeds that sway in the evening breeze. It reflects the moon as it climbs into the peaceful sky. Its gentle current carries the whispers of countless ordinary days into the endless distance. The stars shine above ancient Egypt just as they did thousands of years ago. They watch over the quiet fields. They watch over the resting village. They watch over the sleeping granary, where baskets of grain wait patiently for another dawn. And little by little, even those ancient sounds begin to soften. The footsteps fade. The grinding stones become still. The voices disappear into the warm night air. Only the quiet murmur of the Nile remains. Slow. Steady. Timeless. As the breeze drifts gently across the water and through the reeds, the ancient world settles peacefully into silence, inviting tired eyes to close, tired minds to rest, and weary hearts to drift, as softly as the river itself, into a calm and dreamless sleep.